Hello, friend. Okay, let me read this email. I'll keep anything personal out. The reason I'm starting to read these emails is to give them a context to the responses, because it kind of gives a two-way thing. Hello, Kurt. Thank you for your kind words and advice. It's embarrassing to say, but it made me very happy to hear praise from you. You're doing a good job. You deserve it. The quote, "I Still Live," comes from Edgar Rice Burroughs' Princess of Mars book series. Most people call this series the Barsoom series, Barsoom novels, or the John Carter books. They concern a Civil War veteran who finds himself suddenly on Mars in times of utmost peril, whether in dungeons below ancient cities or stranded, without even a sword, in the wilderness. He would say to himself or his comrades those words. I especially like the character's admission that he loves to be in battle and face death more than anything else, even though he knows it is a strange thing. It is strange to think such things. I have tried to be John Carter in my own way, by stepping up to battles and reveling in the struggle more than in the peace that comes later. Interesting. I want to tell you also about a young man I used to work with. He has great courage and is a person I feel you would like to hear about. Young, and I'll leave the name out, is from, and I'll leave the place out, and moved here just before finishing high school with his mom. He started at the junior college in this place and found 2 roommates to bunk up with when his mom moved back to New York. He had a job at Domino's, but needed more income, so he started working mornings. He doesn't own a car and has to wake up very early to get to work after getting off late the night before. Most weeks he won't have a full day off. I can tell you he has never once complained about his burdens to me. To show you how tough he is, he told me he was taking pain medication for a spasm caused by too much tension in his shoulders pushing up against his spine. He didn't tell his boss until someone said something about it. He told me he felt better working with the pain rather than being lazy and doped up at home. I think he goes to massage therapy now or something. It's a bullet train. He only seems kind of I'll show you if another one goes by. He only seems kind of bummed when he told me his roommates poked fun at him for working so much and never having time to hang out. Oops. I'm sorry. Pushed the wrong button here. They obviously haven't grasped that everyone has different circumstances. Well, I showed him some of your videos. I believe one of them was living as a castaway. It's funny, I was just writing to that young gentleman just before I answered your message. I told him, see, there are people in this world who appreciate young men stepping into their own manhood. He really felt better after seeing you give advice similar to what he is currently doing. I think it may have given him courage as well to hear you talk about putting yourself through college. It's really important to him to finish school. So once again, thank you for listening to my story and for the advice. It really is the only solution. You're talking about, yeah, your brother. I promise to give him as much encouragement. He has a bit of a challenge with his brother. I promise to give him as much encouragement and love as I have. Keeping him in a state of comfort would only hurt him. And I was happy to hear you would be coming back to the States. I always dreamed of going north into Washington and Oregon and taking in the good air up there. There are quite a number of interesting critters in those forests. Not as many giant killer hornets, though. Your friend. Yeah, you are my friend, and I feel honored to know you, as I do with the man before that you referred to as from the Living as a Castaway video. Your friend is a young man of character, as are you, and it's a funny thing because I don't worry too much about you guys. You know, you're going through some challenging stuff, but the atmosphere and the air of your correspondence is less of despair as much as one who is working to find their way through. It's like I picture someone on a raft going through the Colorado River. You know, they see themselves on something difficult. You know, the rapids are ahead, maybe a waterfall is ahead even, you know, a manageable waterfall. And it's not a matter so much of fretting or worrying about the rapids as simply pedaling like a son of a gun to get to avoid the boat flipping over. and losing everything, and possibly the dangers involved. You're not doing that. You're not just cowering in the raft and waiting for fate to take you, or to not do anything. But you're actually making efforts, and you're associating with people like this. I would recommend that you foster the friendship you have with this young man that you described, and find strength in one another, and of course, keep your correspondence with me. I like to think of you guys. I got this image, and I've shared it on videos in the past. When I was a young man, when I was a boy, not a young man, when I was a boy, growing up, I was one of the lucky ones that I had a relatively decent home. Wasn't perfect, broken home in the end, but my parents were a bit dysfunctional in many ways, but altogether not too bad. My father was an incredible man, and we used to go camping, and we'd sit around the fire, and my brother and I and my mother, and my father was a storyteller, and he had this big bushy beard. We call him Grizzly, and because of that, it's a nickname that he picked up somewhere, but he looked like green old grizzly bear. I think it was from that TV show. You may not remember this. It was way before your time. Grizzly Adams, about a mountain man and I was inspired by that, a mountain man who lived with this giant grizzly bear, and they had this big bushy beard, and my dad had that, so we all called him Grizzly. Everybody called him Grizzly. Anyway, he would tutor my brother and I. He was a man of science, and he was an engineer, but also he was a dreamer. He loved science fiction. He loved actual science. He would read textbooks, and he would, he was long finished with college, but he would read textbooks for a hobby, and things like periodicals such as Asimov's and Scientific American were always on the side of his table. So he was very well educated and knowledgeable, and he would teach us, but it wasn't a matter of just like rote memorization or just teaching from a dull lecture. He could be a storyteller, and he would sit around the fire in the desert, California desert, the vast canopy of stars above, and he would give my brother and I flashlights, and he would say, aim it at the stars, and we'd turn these flashlights on. He'd bought the flashlights and brought them out specifically to do this. And he'd tell us to turn the flashlights on, leave them on for 5 seconds, tell him to turn them off. And he would then proceed to tell us how the light beams that we had just shone up into the sky, the clear, crystal clear. There goes the bullet train. I promised I'd show it to you. The crystal clear night sky. And he would say, those light beams they've passed through the atmosphere. There goes another one. This one's going to Tokyo. The other one was headed to Kyoto. Do you hear that sparkle? That's the electricity arcing across from the contacts up above. Anyway, and he would say those light beams have just left the Earth, and they're now traveling at 300,000 kilometers per second, 186,000 miles per second. And they will be traveling away from the Earth at that speed, basically, possibly forever. Long after he's gone, long after my brother and I are gone, those beams will be traveling out, and he had tried to conceptually have us picture that in our mind. And he tried to help us develop a sense of wonder and a sense of interest in the world. It was his tutorage that caused me to go to college, even though I wasn't interested in education at all. I'm very grateful that I did, and I did work my way through. He helped me through junior college, but I got through the last. I want to clarify, because the cutoff point was when I reached a certain age, and I took care of myself, got myself through college once I got to university for the last part of my education there. But I always have this picture in my mind of those campfires out in the desert. We weren't at a proper camp. We just go out in the middle of the desert and camp out there. And sitting around with Grizzly teaching us, and my mom's watchful eyes. It's a happy moment. I wish more children had that. I wish all children could have that type of experience, that kind of a secular vision of the world, and grounded in reality and facts, which are more wonderful sometimes than any fiction that could possibly be made. And the experience that I had. And now that he's gone, he's been gone over 20 years now, and I really miss him greatly. But now, in part, what I try to do in this channel in particular is to try and share Grizzly's spirit and his sensitivity and his love of the young and his love of education. There's lots of stories I could tell you about what he did in his life to further the education of others. And I'd like to welcome you to, I defined this in a video a long time ago called The Sons of Grizzly. And basically those who can join us at the campfire, so to speak. Of course, we'll never have that physical campfire with him again, but the kind of rhetorical campfire, that thought campfire, that where there's those of us who enjoy this aspect of living and seek pleasure out of thinking and experiencing and living and challenging and taking on life and not just letting life happen, but living life. And I'd like to welcome you, my friend, to that. There goes another bullet train. So you can't see so well through the trees. They run them close this time of the day, about 3 to 4 minutes apart. Wow. So I'd like to welcome you and anybody else who might want to be there to join the fraternity of the Sons of Grizzly. And ladies are welcome too, even though it's got that title. I think I do have a playlist called that. I may have to add videos of this sort. No, that's what I'll do. Videos of this sort, which are basically conversations with others who are, particularly the young, who are pursuing life despite the challenges, who are pursuing a good life despite the challenges. Not the good life being defined as not the worldly good necessarily of goods and materials, but the more refined isn't the right word. The more intangible gains, the more intangible good life of living a life of courage and determination despite challenges. Walking the path of wildness, so to speak, as I call it. I'm going to sign off for now, my friend. Sorry it's kind of long-winded. Welcome to the fraternity if you want to join us and anybody else. I'm going to actually create a folder in my computer here, and I'm going to call it Sons of Grizzly and add your email to that. Take care, friend. Bye-bye.